Hi everyone, Lee Pacchia here, and welcome to the Markman Minute, something a little bit different. I don't usually appear on this show, but since Gaston is at his office today and I'm not in studio, we thought we would do this over Skype. Something a little bit different, hope you like it. It's the first week of the new year. Welcome to 2016. Happy New Year, folks. Wanted to pick Gaston's brain for a moment if we could, and try to go through some of the things that people need to be aware of at the intersection of IP and investing as we head into 2016. Gaston, thanks for joining us. Welcome.
Thank you, Lee, and good to be here. Hello, everyone, and welcome to 2016.
So what do you got for us?
Well, I think as we approach a new year, it's good to see and think about what, kind of some of the lessons learned from 2015, and more importantly, what we can expect to see going forward on the IP front. I think from a lot of the headlines that we spent a lot of time talking about last year, from the Calabas IPR situation to the challenges of companies in the publicly traded patent assertion sector, even to companies like Qualcomm and Rovi that do a lot of their business licensing their patents. I think we're going to see a continuation of a lot of those stories as they further unfold as time goes on. There's already been predictions out there of a lot of consolidation potentially happening, particularly for the smaller publicly traded patent consolidators that tried to ride a wave a few years ago of investor interest in patent assertion. I think we're going to see some of those companies either merge or potentially fail to be replaced by others. There's also been a lot of talk of a changing investment strategy when it comes to the IP space. A lot of firms and companies that really depended on trying to play litigation events last year had a difficult time. And and that might lead to a little bit of a change in strategy or focus for a lot of companies. One thing that I think is worth keeping an eye out on, and this is news that came out yesterday, Gerchen Keller, which is a Chicago-based litigation funder of some repute that has been a big player in the patent litigation market in terms of funding law firms and patent assertion campaigns, just announced that their assets under management have increased to over $1 billion, close to $1.4 billion, which is a substantial amount of money to put into play with respect to litigation type events. And one of the things that's interesting about Gerchen Keller is they've made some substantial investments in the patent litigation space. We've seen reports to the tune of at least $100 million just riding on existing patent cases, which is a substantial amount of money. But at the same time, they've also done some very other interesting things in terms of dipping their toes in the water in the IPR game. They've set up a subsidiary to file a few IPRs. And they're also always in the market for offering new products to the patent litigation community, including things like attorney's fees insurance and other things. So I think it's a symptom of investors looking for uncorrelated returns and trying to look at the legal market and the IP market as a place where they may get a little bit more bang for their buck, which is fine and something I think that's going to continue. At the same time, it may also be an indication that the money is flowing away from companies like Varingo and Parker Vision and some of the well-known names from a few years back with respect to publicly traded patent assertion activity, and maybe into more diverse vehicles like Gerchen Keller's fund or other vehicles that we may see a rise over the year. There's definitely an appetite for IP-related investment, but plugging your money and buying a load of shares in some patent assertion company has proven to be a bad investment for a lot of people. And as a result, I think there's a little bit more of a focus on finding alternatives.
So last year we did an awful lot of talking about biotech companies, pharmaceutical companies. Going into 2016, do you see that continuing? And if so or if not, do you see other industries or sectors primed for similar kinds of disruption?
Well, I think on the biotech side, the story is going to continue to be the effect of patent expiration on a lot of the larger companies. Over the last few years, there's been a lot of talk in the biotech sector of a patent cliff that's hit a lot of the blockbuster drugs. That's starting to peter out a little bit. But at the same time, we're continuing to see major consolidation in the biotech space. So talk of companies like Allergan and Pfizer potentially hooking up. That's going to have an impact, I think, on the IP landscape. In a similar way, the consolidation on the generic side is going to continue to have an impact potentially on the number of blockbuster drugs that get challenged under Hatch-Waxman and other mechanisms. At the same time, Kyle Bass is not going away. He's continued to be public and has really been in the midst of a bit of a public relations campaign to give a little bit more meat to the bones of his IPR-based strategy, framing the debate very much in the context of drug prices. And as the pharmaceutical biotech industry moves away from a model of investing heavily in R&D and more in kind of an M&A based acquisition mode, there's plenty of examples of companies that have merged, taken on new drugs, or maybe purchased a smaller biotech company with one or two drugs. And the temptation remains for a lot of these companies to immediately raise the price of the drugs. The political landscape around drug prices, Bass's IPR campaign, which is trying to turn the narrative towards drug prices, all points to a lot of interesting expectations for 2016 in the biotech sector. In terms of other industries that may become more of a story on the patent front in 2016, there's been a lot of talk in the background over the last couple of years about the oil and gas industry as a potential sector where there's been a lot of patenting activity, not a lot of, relative to some of the other sectors, not a lot of litigation. But it remains to be seen, and I don't want to go so far out on limits to try to predict that this is going to happen, but there is a chance that as companies in the oil and gas sector look for other ways of generating revenue, particularly in light of the lower oil prices and the challenges they have in generating revenue nowadays, whether or not one, two, or more of these companies turn to their patents, start looking at their patent portfolios and saying, do we have anything here that can help us raise some money, generate some money in the marketplace through enforcement, licensing, litigation, however approach they take? That's something that's going to be interesting to see. The other thing that's going to be interesting to see is there's a lot of talk about potential consolidation in the oil and gas industry whenever there's weaker hands and stronger hands. Whether or not the companies with stronger patent portfolios make themselves more attractive, either acquisition targets or acquirers, is going to be interesting to see as well. So oil and gas is another area that I think is, could step in and generate a lot of news to replace, like we've talked about, kind of replace the petering out of the publicly traded patent assertion company as the main focus.
Good stuff. Gaston, thanks for your time today, sir.
Thank you, Lee.
That's Gaston Kroub from Markman Advisors. If you'd like to see more of the stuff we're working on, be sure to go check us out online at mimesislaw.com under the IP Flow tab. We're also on Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn. If you're listening to us over a podcast, do us a favor and write us a good review on iTunes. It makes all the difference in the world. If you're watching this video on YouTube, subscribe to our channel. We're pretty fantastic. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Speak was under review by the Patent and Trial Appeal Board as a result of Selgin sanctions. And it's important to realize what the PTAB ruled, what they decided, and what